This is History Myths and Myth Conceptions. And today's myth conception is modern cities with ancient names. This video is not about Memphis, Tennessee or Athens, Georgia. Everything is pretty much clear with them. These names don't really confuse people and don't lead to misunderstanding. Yeah, they might seem weird, but that's about it. What we're gonna talk about today is the instances when the ancient names actually lead to a certain confusion, and sometimes even try to fool people, so you have to be cautious. First of all, let's talk about the confusing situations. When, for example, you go traveling and decide to visit some ancient city of importance. For example, you look at the map and, inspired by the glorious history of Spartans, decide to visit Sparta because, there's a city called Sparta, or Sparti in Greek. It's there. Except Sparta ceased to exist long ago. Only a couple of stones of ancient Sparta remain. And the present-day Sparta was founded in the year 1834 by the king of Greece, who decided to promote something nice and nationalistic and restore the famous name on the map. So they just built a new city near the ancient ruins. Nobody's trying to fool you here. They are not falsifying history or something. And probably everybody knows that there is no continuity between ancient Sparta and the modern town. But still, every now and then you can meet people who genuinely believe that the Sparta of old naturally evolved into this. By the way, don't get me wrong, modern Sparta is a surprisingly nice city. Another example, pretty much in the same lane, is the city of Corinth. Very important for the history of ancient Greece, very important for the history of Rome, and quite important for Christians because of their mythology. And it is pretty much the same story as with Sparta. And nobody even tries to fool you. The modern Corinth is not related to Corinths of old. And strictly speaking, there was more than one Corinth. The first was completely destroyed by Romans in 146 BC. And the second was built by Romans as a Roman colony. So this city doesn't really exist, only a pile of stones essentially. A modern city was built in 1858, and it was founded as New Corinth, and only later renamed to Corinth. And in fact, it was kind of destroyed a couple of times since then, because this place is apparently cursed. Sorry, mostly because of seismic activity in the region. So this is just a couple of examples why you shouldn't automatically assume things by just looking at the map. Old names are there usually for patriotic and nationalistic reasons. You have to research for information. Obviously, there can be much more examples like that. Say Ostia, which is a commune in Rome, but the actual ancient city of Ostia ceased to exist a long time ago. And the city of Candia on Crete, late in the 19th century, was renamed into Heraclion, an ancient city that probably was somewhere in the vicinity of the modern one. It also should be noted that some of the cities, probably continuously inhabited since ancient times, actually retained almost nothing from the past. They've been rebuilt so many times that almost nothing remains from some of the previous periods. Which is logical, that's how people usually live. And now we're moving to another category, when people, for different reasons, actually try to fool you and present a relatively new city as the ancient one. My favorite example here is Jerusalem. We don't have that much information on ancient Jerusalem if we discard religious texts. But it is generally believed that the city was destroyed in the year 70. Pliny the Elder, for example, who famously died in the year 79, mentions the ruins of Hierosalima, indicating that the city was gone and wasn't populated. Somewhere in the first half of the 2nd century, during the reign of Emperor Hadrian, Romans founded the colony near the spot where Hierosalima once stood. The new city was named Colonia Ilia Capitolina. 5 centuries later, it was conquered by Muslims and became known as simply Ilia, and then, after some time, mostly as al-Quds. At which point this city was renamed into Jerusalem, a city which ceased to exist in the 1st century, is an interesting question. But if you open Wikipedia, you'll see how people contradict each other and first say that the city was destroyed, then it magically reappears as Ilia Capitolina, but it is somehow the same city, things like that. Which includes phrases like, the city was renamed Ilia Capitolina, and the link to the source of this information, first of all, doesn't go to any primary sources. Second, it literally says that Hadrian founded a new city. So the provided citation contradicts the statement. And then there's Jericho, frequently labeled as the oldest city in the world, which is total nonsense, even worse than Jerusalem. There are some comparable stories that come to mind, like the city of Oslo is actually Christiania, founded in 1624 and later renamed after a medieval settlement. So that Wikipedia could tell you stories that it is established in 1048. There are lots of cities around the world where the claim for succession and being continuously inhabited since ancient times is very questionable. Take a good look at China, for example. So you should be cautious with the maps. And you should be extra cautious when somebody's trying to sell you the myth of the incredibly ancient, continuously inhabited city.